More than 1,400 people were eventually charged after the breach of the U.S. Capitol during the January 6 United States Capitol attack. But years later, a federal watchdog confirmed something most Americans never heard about. 26 FBI informants were also in Washington that day. 4 of them entered the Capitol building. None were authorized to do it, and none were charged with a crime. So what exactly were they doing there? And what did the government's own investigation actually find? Incident uncovered. We reconstruct law enforcement incidents using verified records, official reports, and sworn testimony. No speculation, just the documented record. To understand the controversy surrounding January 6th, you first need to understand the system the FBI uses to gather intelligence. The Bureau operates a nationwide network of confidential human sources, often called CHSs. These individuals are not FBI agents. They are private citizens who agree to provide information about groups or individuals under investigation. In exchange, they may receive payment, protection, or legal consideration. Their activities are overseen by FBI handlers inside specific field offices. And normally, those sources operate under strict rules. Rules about where they can go, what they can do, and what they are absolutely prohibited from participating in. In December 2024, the most comprehensive investigation into the FBI's role surrounding January 6th was released by the United States Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General. That investigation was led by Inspector General Michael Horowitz. His office spent years reviewing FBI documents, internal communications, and sworn testimony. What they found raised difficult questions about oversight inside the Bureau. Let's walk through the report's most important findings. Finding 126 FBI confidential human sources were present in Washington, D.C. during the events surrounding January 6th. 3 of those sources had been specifically tasked by the FBI to report on individuals considered domestic terrorism concerns. The remaining 23 sources traveled to Washington on their own initiative. But this is where the situation becomes complicated. Finding 4 confidential human sources entered the Capitol building itself. 13 others entered restricted areas surrounding the Capitol grounds. According to the Inspector General's report, none of them were authorized to do so. FBI policy prohibits informants from entering restricted federal property or participating in criminal activity without prior approval. Yet 4 sources cross that line, and here's the detail that has fueled the most controversy. None of those 4 informants were charged with a crime. Hundreds of private citizens who entered the building that day were prosecuted, but these 4 individuals were not. Finding 3, the Inspector General found no evidence that the FBI directed any informants to incite violence or provoke the crowd. The report reviewed communications, handler instructions, and testimony from agents and sources. It concluded that none of the informants were instructed to encourage the breach of the Capitol. This finding directly contradicts claims that the FBI orchestrated the attack. But it also highlighted a different problem: oversight failures. Sources operating beyond their authorized limits without clear accountability afterward. Nearly a year after the Inspector General report, another revelation emerged. In September 2025, FBI Director Kash Patel publicly disclosed that an internal review identified 274 FBI agents present at the Capitol on January 6th. That number immediately sparked new speculation, but Patel clarified an important detail. Those agents were not embedded in the crowd beforehand. According to Patel, they were deployed as part of the law enforcement response after the situation had already escalated into a riot. In other words, they were participating in crowd control operations. Still, Patel sharply criticized the decision. He argued that deploying FBI agents for riot control violated the Bureau's own operational standards, and in doing so, he publicly accused former FBI Director Christopher Wray of misrepresenting the Bureau's role to Congress. That accusation created a rare moment in American law enforcement history. A sitting FBI director openly criticizing his predecessor's handling of one of the most significant security events in decades. The story did not end with the Inspector General's report. In January 2026, a new House subcommittee reopened congressional investigations into the events surrounding January 6th. Lawmakers have since demanded additional records related to the 26 confidential human sources. They want to know who authorized their travel, what intelligence they gathered, and why the 4 who entered the Capitol were never charged. Those questions remain unresolved. As of today, the identities of those sources remain confidential, and the full details of their activities have not been released publicly. The impact of these revelations extends far beyond the events of that single day. January 6th triggered one of the largest criminal investigations in American history. More than 1,400 people were charged. Sentences ranged from probation to decades in federal prison. Against that backdrop, the confirmation that 4 government informants entered the same building and faced no charges has fueled intense debate. Some see it as evidence of unequal treatment. Others see it as a reflection of how confidential sources are handled within federal investigations. Either way, the perception of a double standard has become part of the national conversation, and perception, in matters of justice, can be just as powerful as reality. So what does the official record actually tell us? 26 FBI informants were present in Washington on January 6th. 4 entered the Capitol building. 13 entered restricted grounds. None were authorized to do so. None were charged. At the same time, the Inspector General found no evidence that the FBI directed anyone to incite violence, and 274 FBI agents were later deployed during the law enforcement response. Those are the facts confirmed by official federal investigations. But the larger questions about accountability, transparency, and public trust remain open. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If you had the FBI director sitting in front of you under oath, what question would you ask? Let me know in the comments. We read everyone. And if you want more breakdowns of major law enforcement incidents using verified records and official reports, subscribe to Incident Uncovered. Facts first, always.